just bear with me one moment as I set up the portable mic. I'm going to be a little difficult tonight. So. Is this working? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Everyone in the back too? Yeah? Yeah? All right, perfect. I have some visual aids with me today. Don't worry, I'm not going to give you guys a lecture. It's not why I'm here. So hi everyone. My name is Parth. I'm a first-year medical student here, and as you've heard, I'm also the photographer here tonight. Actually, I first got involved with this project about a month and a half ago. The coordinators of this event did a great job, by the way. We're looking for someone to help them take these wonderful portraits. I know there was inclement weather, and some of you guys came in a little late. But for those of you who were hanging out before the program, we saw these slides that were passing through. And they all have the same stem, right? My donor taught me. And it was an individualized message by each one of our students. So this is my good friend Julia. And Julia felt that my donor taught me the true meaning of selflessness. And so actually tonight, that's sort of what I wanted to talk to you about, is photography. And it's going to swing back around to the theme of the night, I promise. Just stick with me. But I really want to talk about photography tonight. So it's a new hobby for me. I've only been involved with it for a couple of years. And when I first got started, I was kind of confused because everybody now has an iPhone in their pocket, and so I thought, well, what's the difference? What's the role of a photographer, right? Is he doing the same thing as everyone is with their phone, just with a nicer camera? And it didn't sit well with me. So I asked myself, okay, what is the job of a photographer? And I said the photographer has three jobs that he or she has to master. The first is to learn how to appreciate. Because as a photographer sets his subject in frame, he or she has to pay mindful attention to their subject. And as you pay this close attention, you learn to develop a deeper appreciation. Two, I think the photographer has to understand the truth. Because the photographer is a master of angles, a master of context. How you see the photo is all about how the photographer takes it. And through understanding different perspectives and different angles, you can build a more cohesive picture of the truth. And three, and I think most importantly, I think the job of a photographer is synthesis. And this sounds a little strange, but what I think synthesis is the ability for the photographer to capture the entirety of an experience and put it into a single frame. And I have some visual aids with me today to kind of walk you through this, because I know these are big words, big concepts that I'm kind of throwing out there, and I know I sound a little crazy right now, but we're gonna walk you through it. We're gonna walk you through it. So last year, I took a gap year between undergrad and medical school, and during this time, that's when I really wanted to practice being a photographer. And so I would go different places, maybe the city one day. The time I'm talking to you about today was at a hike in Vernon, New Jersey. There's a trail there. It's called the Appalachian Trail. It spans 2,200 miles in length from Georgia to Maine. It starts at a mountain in Georgia and ends at a mountain in Maine. I was hanging out in about 1 mile of that because I'm not that athletic. So I was in my area in New Jersey. But here's where I practice the 3 things a photographer does, right? So I mentioned 1 is to appreciate, 2 is to understand the truth, and 3 is to synthesize. And so let's talk about these things. So as I came up upon this bridge, I said, this is a perfect model for me to really put my skills to the test. And so I walked up to the bridge, and I took a photo just as I would, just exactly as I saw it. I said, okay, but a photographer has to learn how to appreciate different angles. So I walked up to the bridge, and I kind of got real tall, and I looked down, and I took a photo. And in this other photo, I walked to about halfway across the bridge, and I crouched, and I took a photo that way. And I continued. The lighting changed, and the angles were a little different. But then I said, okay, what's the truth of the experience? Right? Because the obvious question when you're on a bridge is, well, what's the view? Right? What's the view? And that is an aspect of the experience. So I said, okay, let me see if I can capture the views from the bridge. And I was doing my due diligence, okay? I mean, I was doing my due diligence, that's right, because I said, maybe this isn't even part of the question either. Maybe what matters is sort of the spontaneous things you come across when you're next to the bridge, right? Like the turtle or the flower. I mean, I went so far as to just take photos of the floor. Just point my camera down and, right, just because I wanted to be thorough. I mean, I have a little example. I mean, this is. I spent hours at this bridge. I spent way too long. But I mentioned, right, a photographer does 3 things. Okay, and I tried to show you how I was learning to appreciate the different angles of the experience and to sort of give you the truth of what it was on that bridge that day. But what is the most important task, right? The most important task of a photographer is to capture the entirety of the moment in 1 frame. And so that's what I tried to do. And so when I took the photo from this angle, right, it almost looks like the path has never ended, right, which I thought mirrored really well the 2,200-mile stretch of the Appalachian Trail. And if you look kind of at the end in the background, I mean, it's not perfectly clear, but there's a mountain at the end. I said, wow, is that the start or the end of the track? Maybe, I don't know. And so what I did here was I tried to capture the entire trail in 1 photo, and that was the best I could do. And so now I hope you kind of understand where I was coming from when I said a photographer has 3 tasks. Well, fast forward a couple months, and we started medical school, and I didn't have as much time to take photos of bridges as I'd like to, but we started school, and we had our first course in biomedical sciences, and we all really enjoyed it. And then come around October, we had our first anatomy course. And we were sitting in these seats, and our professor sat us down. And he said, what you guys are about to do is a sacred and storied part of any physician's training. You talk to any doctor, they will tell you about their time in anatomy lab. It's not something you forget. And above all, what we want you to do is to treat the donors with the utmost respect. And so we sat in these same seats and kind of took in the gravity of the moment. We were just getting ready to leave when our professor stops us. And he says, there's one more thing I want to add. I said, okay. He said, there's absolutely no photography in the anatomy lab. Period. School policy. and so, okay. I was here and I totally understood the policy. It falls in line with respecting the donors, and I had a deep appreciation for it. But I showed these photos of the bridge, and I was really excited. I was really excited to put those skills to use, right? Because a photographer has 3 tasks: to appreciate, to find the truth, and to synthesize. And I thought, what better time to use them during this pivotal moment in my training, right? Photography helps me bring out the most in what I experience, and so I wanted to put it to use during this time. And so I did. Unbeknownst to anybody else, I was in anatomy lab taking photos the whole time. And I see the deans raising their eyebrows at me. But I promise you, they were just mental photos. Okay? Nothing digital, nothing tangible, nothing I can share, just in my own head for me to look at. So no, to answer everyone's question, no, I don't actually have photos of anatomy lab. But what I do have are photos of a bridge. And so what I thought I would do for everyone tonight is to try and use the photos of the bridge as a metaphor and an analogy to try and bring the experience of the lab to life for you guys tonight. And so I'll tell you what I mean. So when you're on the bridge, the obvious question is, well, what's the view? And in anatomy lab, my mental photos, the obvious question is, well, what's the view? And so for me, that was the donors. And so I have catalogs and catalogs of mental photos of the donors in my head. Because for me, photography is a way to enhance the experience. And this is something I wanted to remember. But, like the bridge, I was being thorough, right? And so, apart from the obvious question of what's the view, sometimes there's these spontaneous moments that come, right? In the bridge, it was this moth that happened to land next to me. Parallels with that, the turtle and the flower that I was showing you earlier, right? Just kind of happened upon me. There's a difference with this moth, though, and this moth was fleeting. It was only there for a moment, and I knew I had a brief window to capture it. In an anatomy lab, these moments also came. So what was a moth on the bridge in anatomy lab were moments of deeper understanding. And so when I had these moments, I would take a mental photo of whatever it is I was holding, I was seeing, however it might be. So my mental photo, in this case, was a forceps. It was a tool that I was holding. And these fleeting moments that would come and affect not just me, but all of us, came in the form of confronting for the first time our own mortality. Understanding in a deeper sense that our experience here on earth is really a drama of life and death. And we, as physicians, play a very important role in that. We're supporting cast. But the protagonist, the main character, is and always will be the patient. And these moments, grateful as I were for them, and I did my best to capture them, they were difficult to process, as you can imagine. These are heavy topics that we're kind of talking about. And so, while the obvious question is, what's the landscape? Sometimes the landscape isn't the subject of the photo. In this case, it was the elder couple that was walking along the bridge. In anatomy lab, that took the form of my classmates and my professors. See, because apart from the technical prowess we needed to complete the course, we also had to open ourselves up emotionally. To successfully handle these deep topics, we had to lean on each other in a way that we had never had to before. To confront these big issues. Now, you might say, Parth, thank you for kind of giving me an experience of what the anatomy lab was like. I think we have this appreciation for what you guys were doing, and we have sort of a holistic experience, right? You guys kind of showed me the truth, what was going on in the anatomy lab. But you said every photographer has to be good at synthesis. What's the one frame that captures all of anatomy lab? So for the bridge, it was a photo that actually I almost didn't take. The unexpected photo, I didn't really think I would ever share with anyone, let alone in an auditorium tonight. And then in anatomy lab, it was a bare white wall. See, because as I was looking at that bare white wall, I had a moment of understanding. And I'm sorry for this portion of the talk, I'm going to read it because I think it's very important and I want to do it justice. It was a photo of the bare white wall. You see, it was there one evening as I was studying in lab that it occurred to me that no photography was more than just a school policy. The task of a photographer is to capture the moment. But no collection of photos, no series of experiences, even if pulled from all 160 of the first-year medical students, could begin to scratch the surface of the gratitude we felt. In the anatomy lab, we experienced arguably our first sense of true selflessness as we interacted with the donors. This is an ideal that we as physicians who are in a field fundamentally rooted in human service can only aspire to. Yes, they brought a new meaning of sacrifice. Yes, that bare white wall signified that any attempt to capture this moment would necessarily cheapen it. Yes, that white wall taught me that irrespective of lighting, framing, and filter, some moments are just meant to be experienced. Even as I speak, these words feel to have fallen short in capturing gratitude for your family's sacrifice. But we humbly hope you do accept them, although we wish we had more to offer. Thank you.